Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear us and see us and no technical difficulties. But I'm Steve Stallard with Johnson Plastics Plus, and I'm joined today with Carly.
Hi, everybody.
And today we're going to talk all things heat transfer. There's a lot of questions about heat transfer. It's one of our most popular technologies that we sell. So we've gone through and populated questions. We want you to ask questions. Feel free to throw them into the chat. If we don't get to them, we will follow up with you, but we're going to try to answer them a bunch today, talk about the equipment, show you some demos, and all that good stuff. So just a few housekeeping things real quick, if I can click. If you're having audio issues, we always have someone has some audio issues. A lot of times it's best fixed by just restarting your computer, or excuse me, restarting the broadcast or the webinar, coming back in. If that doesn't work, then instead of using your computer audio, just call in, and of course it's being recorded, and if all else fails, you can watch it later. So
yep.
Lots of options there. So we are sorry if you are having some technical difficulties, and I don't think I'm showing my screen. Can we see our screen? That helps if you can see the screen.
There you go.
Okay, see? It helps that the operator knows what he's doing too. So again, there's your explanation now that you can see it of how to fix your audio. So it's on the screen now.
It's your first webinar, Steve.
And also mute button, raise your hand for a question,
yes.
All those good things.
I can't tell you how many webinars I've done, and every time I forget to click something. So we'll click past this. Okay. Do we have polls today?
Yeah, we
okay,
do. I
so,
created two.
All right.
I created two poll questions.
Awesome. So if we could have your participation on this, we really like to understand where you're at, what you're here for, what you're trying to gain from this, and understand your business a little more. So I'm going to run these real quick, and we're going to launch this, and you should be seeing that up now. And if you could all answer those, take a minute, it's collecting your responses. So what technologies are you using today? Okay, so we got a lot. And some of you, it's like heat transfer. It looks like a lot of you have heat transfer. I'm guessing maybe a lot of you are using vinyl heat transfer, or maybe you have a heat transfer like this too, and you're here just to answer those pressing questions that you have. So 86% of you have heat transfer, 50% sublimation, and neither can I talk today. So and 57% have lasers. So okay, only 58% of you have voted. There we go, come on. I know you can hear me, click away. I appreciate it. Okay, let's go to the next one. I'm gonna close this one. So it gives me an idea what the vast majority of you are doing. Okay, so we closed that one. Let's run this next one. Now we're getting more specific. Are you using a white toner printer today?
So launch.
Launch,
there we go.
Let's try that. Oh my word, it only gets better, folks.
Nothing else, we're very entertaining.
Yeah. Okay, so 53% of you, all right, 74% voted. Look, everybody's paying attention now. I can tell by the responses.
Also, we will be doing a giveaway too at the very end. So
you gotta stay in, stay tuned.
Yep, you gotta stay on in order to be entered in for that giveaway. So.
Okay, so let's go ahead and close this. So, wow, 50, yeah, half and half of you. Some have white toner, some don't. Okay, so this gives me a good idea where you're at. Let's close this one. So, as we said, this is going to be a good webinar for really anyone, whether you're just getting started into this, whether you have one, you're new and you're struggling with some things. Hopefully we've got some resources here and some able to answer questions that will help you get over that hurdle of whatever your challenge or challenge might be. So let's start with some questions right away, George, and we can jump from there.
Yeah. Okay, so Steve, we're going to start with a challenging one.
Okay.
This one came in. And just a reminder, folks, too, if you could use the questions section on the right-hand side of your screen to ask your questions, that would be great. We'll answer some of them offline, and we'll answer some while we're on here as well. So the first question was, hey, I have an iColor 550, and I'm using premium iColor transfer. I also am using a clamshell Giotto press. After I press the image to the garment, it's a 60-40 blend. And once it cools, I try to peel it off, and I have a thin layer of adhesive that stays on. Do you have any tricks for that?
Yeah, it could be a couple things. So one, make sure you're following the directions from iColor on the paper. That comes included in every box, and it's also on their website if you need to reference back to it. there's a couple things that play into heat transfer. It's not an exact science, it's more of an art form, and it takes some time getting used to it, and you're gonna waste some transfers. So don't feel like you're alone in that, it happens. So a couple things. One, I would wanna know what kind of more about what press you have. I'm not familiar with the Giotto press. Your heat presses can make all the difference in the world. You spend all this money on a white toner heat transfer printer, and then if you have a Chinese made press, that's gonna be a problem. The other thing is, you know, the presses we recommend are all American made. They have lifetime warranties on the heat platen. This isn't a sales pitch. This is just the facts. A good press is going to make all the difference. So one, you'd want to know, are you getting even heat and consistent pressure? Because if you're not getting consistent pressure and even heat, that back part of that transfer might not be adhering appropriately. So that's part of the problem. The other thing is sometimes at the end of a peel, you almost want to let that end of it come off on its own. So just real gently, one slow, solid motion. So, you know, we could talk to you a little bit more and see how you're doing and find out a little bit more about your press, but it's solvable, but there's just some variables there that we need some more information on, so.
Yeah, and the premium paper is a little tricky too, because you have an extra step to it, either using a laminator or pressing it down with a heat press prior to. So
the benefit of the paper though is it's rated for like 100 washes, so it's a very, very durable paper. But yeah, we can help you through that, and the directions too, if you don't have those, are on iColor's website, and they also should be on ours too. So okay. All right. Any other one more question?
We've got several questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to ask first off a question for you, Steve. Can you turn off your PowerPoint there?
Oh yes.
So we can see. That one. There we go. Thank
Is that better? Okay.
There we go.
this way they can see
You
us.
get the
That's
little
right.
version of
You
it.
get
Oh,
the
you're
full
welcome.
Steve and Carly
Oh man,
experience.
I don't have a coffee cup here. I feel like I should.
It's like Ryan and Kelly, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. So the second question we had, let's get back to business here, was how do they go about purchasing updates for their Forever Ripped software? So that was one of the questions that came in.
Yeah, just let us know if that's something you're looking to do. You know, you get a certain amount of updates on those. And honestly, though, on the Forever, they don't do many updates. You know, the main rip we sell now is the CAD-Link rip for a reason. There's a lot more tools in the CAD-Link rip. I think it's much more user-friendly. There's actually support that comes with it from the manufacturer. So honestly, on your Forever, you're probably not missing anything. I probably wouldn't necessarily run an update because I've not seen one. So if you honestly want to look at something else, or you might want to take a look at the CAD-Link rip, you can download a free trial of the CAD-Link digital factory for the Oki. There's a pro version for the 9541, and then the other ones can run the other Oki printers along with the iColor. So depending on what you're after, you might find more tools, and there is more tools within the iColor, or within the Oki, the digital factory from CAD-Link. So long and short answer of your question.
And let us know if you need help finding the trial as well. We can definitely guide you in the right spot for where that's located.
Yep.
Okay, and again, just a reminder for those of you who are just popping into the webinar, if you can ask the questions over on the questions panel, which is on your right-hand side, we'll be getting to those either offline and online. So we do have another question for Steve and Carly here. My biggest issue is printing correct color. Even when I use Pantone color in my design with Corel Draw 20, it will not print correctly. Do you guys have any tips or tricks to help ease out? I know that's kind of a...
It's a loaded question. You go ahead and tackle that one. You can do what? Got it? Okay.
Doesn't matter. So you want to make sure you're always going to be printing in CMYK too. So that's going to be one of the biggest factors as well. And then it's already has all the presets within the RIP software for the iColor. So if you need to make any adjustments or anything like that, we can definitely help you with that. But you really shouldn't have to unless you've seen something come along differently.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you know, it depends. If you're trying to match this particular color with somebody, you know, that can open up a whole can of worms. And if you are, I mean, you want to take that Pantone value, you want to find the CMYK value for it and try to match it up the best there. But then you get into a whole nother thing of building color profiles, ICC profiles with a spectrometer. And keep in mind, color you see on your screen is not going to be what's printed out unless you have a graphics monitor and you've calibrated that with a spectrometer and you've built custom profiles. So you have to kind of we'd have to know more about what you're seeing. Also, let's say you're trying to print black and your black's coming out more brown. There's things you can do within the RIP by changing your color values to give you a darker black if you don't richer color, darker black, if you don't have your true black cartridge in, depending on the printer that you use. So lots of variables there. We can troubleshoot with you and go through some things and help you with that. So.
Yep.
We have another software question, so we'll just keep going on that. And this is a good one. We've had this before in our other webinars. So Carly and Steve, what kind of software do you recommend for a beginner to use for photo editing and preparation for the RIP software? So
there's a couple good ways to tackle that. I'll tackle the first one, and then so as far as design, you can really use whatever you want. I recommend CorelDRAW, which is amazing. Like, I am not a designer. I have limited skills, and I've used Corel and Photoshop. They both work well. I think Corel's a little bit easier to learn, but there's great tools out there. So we have those. That's what I would recommend starting out with. But the main thing is you want a program because you're going to do your design in one of those types of programs, or there's free programs like GIMP. That is also linked within the RIP software. You can see, especially if you buy an iColor, GIMP is within there. That is an open source design software that you can use. The main thing is you're exporting that from those design programs, preferably as like a PNG, JPEG, PDF. PNG is good because if you're utilizing some of the tools like Knock Me Out Color, Knock Me Out Black, or Fluid Mask, which allows you to remove backgrounds, you'll want that as a PNG. I want Carly to talk about like our iColor books that we have, our artwork books. We're going to dive into that some more. If you want to just kind of cover that, I'll bring that up on the web.
Yeah, so our art books are super neat, and you can get a lot of different graphics along with it. So you would purchase, you could share your screen.
Yes, okay. I did. So everybody should see this first one. There's a couple here.
Yep, so this is Steve's baby. He absolutely loves the art books, and this is one of the main reasons why we brought it on, is it's just because white transfer toner is so different than doing sublimation or something like that. And it's all about having good quality artwork. So you want to make sure that you have a lot of negative space that can play into it to give a softer hand to the feel of the shirt. So these books are extremely important and help you walk through some of that.
Yeah, this first book here will help you actually set up your artwork. So with, for example, on an iColor printer, when you buy the printer, iColor packages the printer with 25 images to start with. And these are images you can test, bring into like the GIMP program or so forth. And then this book here will walk you through setting up your artwork with like Adobe or Corel, the proper way to do it. This is a step-by-step. We have this available 2 ways, as a digital download and as a paper copy.
Yep.
And then the next one would be our digital stock. There's 4 volumes. I almost said 3, but there's 4 volumes.
500
yep,
graphics
yep,
per
500
volume.
per volume. Yep. So you're going to get 2,000 total. And now these, we've got some examples of this to show you. These are just base graphics, okay? So basically, if you're new to design, a lot of folks are. If you're a designer, you've got your own thing going, and you've probably got stuff in mind, or you've had someone do this. But if you're looking for a base of images to work with, this is what this does. These are fully editable. You can bring them into your design software. We've got examples of that here. I've got books I'll show you. We'll go through the whole thing. But you can bring these in, change colors, change layout, all kinds of things, but it gives you something to start with. There's a lot of images in there. You're not going to use them all, but they pay for themselves. If you get 3, 4, 5 images out of there and you're able to start with that as a base and then edit it and go from there, that helps you pay for these books. And then you're just including this charge within the cost of your shirts as maybe design fee or art fee, however you do that, and then you can recoup that. So answer to your question is, I like the Corel, I like Adobe. On top of that, we have resources available for you with the iColor artwork books. This will work with the iColor products, of course, and then also with the Okies. You can use that with both. So they're available for either of the technologies.
Yep, and if you're wondering which volume that you want to purchase, because there are, again, 4 different volumes, you are able to preview which images are there. And if you go to our details section, or I'm sorry, downloads. Is it downloads? Yep, downloads. You can preview all of the volumes to see maybe which one you'd be interested in purchasing, or if you'd want them all. So it's a nice option to have.
Yep. All right.
So this was, Steve and Carly, this was one of our pre-submitted questions. So we had this one come in ahead of time. And I know we get this one a lot too, but can you kind of go over a little bit of the basic differences between heat transfer and sublimation?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, so sublimation, we actually have some examples, which I will get up here. Sublimation is more of a science really than, I feel like, technology, but that's just me. So the ink is actually physically embedded within the substrate. So as you can tell, that's completely embedded within that substrate. It's not going to come off. It's not going to wash off or scratch off or anything like that. It's actually a part of the shirt at this point. So that's sublimation. And you have to have a white or light color and then a polyester material in order for that ink to embed within it. So a little bit of some limitations, but again, a great option for it to be permanent. And then with heat transfer, this is on the surface of the shirt. So it's not going to physically embed, it's on the surface. So it is a top layer on there. You can feel it, unlike the sublimation. But with heat transfer, you have a white toner option. So you can print on the dark colors, and you can print on virtually, I mean, anything that can fit in a heat press and withstand a little bit of heat. So a lot of options.
Oh, for sure. One of the questions we get is, especially for those of you using lasers today, you're probably here looking to add color. Maybe you're thinking, do I add sublimation? Do I add heat transfer? Maybe you have one or the other. A lot of times you end up with both.
Yeah.
And that's because each one has pros and cons, and where one might have a con, the other complements that. So with sublimation, it's very low cost of entry point. As Carly said, it's a very durable. Sometimes I feel like sublimation will get overlooked for garments, and there's a lot of great garments that you can do with sublimations, and just depending on your artwork and what you're trying to achieve. So it's good to talk to Carly and I, one of the sales reps, to understand what you're looking to do as far as substrates, what you're trying to achieve within your business, and then we can help you navigate the waters of which technology makes sense to start with. But a lot of times you end up both. Sometimes you buy sublimation, and the next thing you know, people are asking you for cotton in dark colors. And there's some solutions for that on sublimation that might be suitable, but a lot of times we find that it's just easier to go to the white toner based heat transfer printers. So lots of different things that you can do, and we have both technologies, and we can help you determine which one makes sense. So
Cool. Another question that came in, coming in fast and furious. This customer has an iColor 800W, and they want to know if they can print onto self-adhesive vinyl with the iColor 800W.
Well, I'd have to know more about what you're using. I mean, there is a CL media from Magic Touch, which is almost kind of it's vinyl-like. It's not a vinyl, but you could take it to a cutter and use it to cut out like as a label or something like that for a product. So we need to know more. The main thing is, could that product take the heat as far as being able to run through what's the thickness and things like that. So yes and no, we would need to know more and kind of just look into that a little bit and see what you're trying to achieve. My main thing is you want to use media. I guess here's the most important answer to that. You want to use media that is spec'd for white toner based heat transfer. There's probably things you can run through, but the next thing you know is if you run that through and it melts to the fuser, guess what? You need a new fuser, and you just have socked into several $100s into something that you didn't have to do. So my point being is use media that's available and spec for white toner heat transfer, and then we can go from there. So just to save yourself headache.
Speaking of media, another question that came in about media is there some type of media out there where somebody could print onto a glass, pint glass?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, so we have hard substrate paper that you would definitely use. So you'd print on the hard substrate paper and then press it onto the glass. So definitely a few different options available if you want to, I don't know if you want to pull that up.
Yep, I'll pull that up. Hold on, let's just give me a second here. I didn't share the screen yet. Let me get this up here first. Well, let me share the screen.
I think you did.
No, I don't think I did.
Oh, no.
No.
There
Okay.
we go.
Now we got to minimize. Can I not minimize? My mouse is all over the place, so bear with me if I can do it.
So, and if you're doing it on a clear pint glass, I would definitely recommend to underprint white. Is that correct, Steve?
No, you're just going to print your like you would normally. Overprint, you're going to use the hard surface paper, and you would run that through like our Johnson Plastics Plus hard surface paper. Let me take this back off. I have to actually minimize this first before I can show you this. Hold on. and we'll get there. I just want to show you on the website if I can. I got too many things open. All right, we're getting there. But yeah, you would just use like our Johnson Plastics Plus paper. That is a great paper to start out with. And I'll have that up here on the web in just 1 second. And we can show you that.
Oh, that's Magic Touch.
Yep,
There
that's
we
okay.
go.
We have Magic Touch too. The CPM paper is good. This is a one-step paper for hard surface. Let's show you the screen.
Yep.
There we
And
go.
this you would actually mirror your artwork in the RIP software.
Yep, you will mirror it all the time. I always say with shirts and everything, you always mirror your artwork, whether you're doing it in the software or doing it in your design program, just stick to doing one or the other. Or the next thing you know, you print transfers and you
Just
forgot
wait
you
for
already
that.
mirrored it. But this paper here is a great paper to use on hard surface, wood, metal, ceramic, glass. Really the rule of thumb with heat transfer is if it can take heat, fit in a press, you can most likely put transfer on it. Now, all things are not created equal there.
Yep.
Some things are going to work way better than other things, and then some things are, it's not going to work that well. So here's what I say: test, 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 test before you take jobs. Understand the printer, understand the paper. Do your training on this first. Take some time to learn it. The biggest mistake I see folks make, you get excited about this, right? It's not a cheap investment. You go take jobs before you understand anything, and you put yourself in a bind. So try to give yourself some time to learn it and test it so that you're not over-committing and under-delivering.
And then again, with heat transfer, it's not going to be dishwasher safe. So keep that in mind. And it is going to be on the surface of that pint glass. So it will be able to be scratched and everything like that. So just be a little bit more cautious and make sure you set the expectations appropriately with your customer. So hand wash only.
Cool. Next question we've got. This one came in and it says that I see that you can calculate your print cost on the ProRip software, and they were wondering if you could touch on that. Can you touch on that, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, your costs, you can calculate cost. I mean, the biggest thing is, on an average design with your toner-based heat transfer, give and take, you're going to be at, 25 cents or so, 25 to 30 cents on an average design. Most of your cost is in your heat transfer paper, so make sure you don't forget about that. That's the biggest cost to this. Your toner is very, very minimal. There's a lot of different things you can take into account for your cost of your transfers, but don't forget the paper and so forth. So we've got a break out of that too, that we can give you a breakdown of that and adding labor and all that good stuff. But yeah, there are a lot of features within the RIP software we can help train you on and work with you with. So you have questions, just let us know and we can work with you on training you on those different settings within the RIP.
So another question just came in. This one was from somebody who owns a printer. They said, what happens if you get a printer, you make a couple prints, but then you let it sit for a couple months? Does it get gummed up? That was the question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So with it being toner based and it's dry toner, you don't have to worry about the print heads clogging or anything like that, like you would with an aqueous based printer. So you can literally turn it off, forget it for 6 months at a time, turn it back on and have no issues with that.
Yep,
So very,
absolutely.
almost virtually maintenance free.
Yeah, it's quite nice. We sell a lot of heat transfer printers to folks who are using direct to garment. Not that there's anything wrong with direct to garment, but there's a place for it. And I think too many times, a lot of folks will buy direct to garment without having the volume. And if you don't have the volume and you're not running that machine all the time, it can lead to a lot of maintenance and a lot of headache and a lot of wasted money. So that's where you can really excel with toner-based heat transfer. You won't have those issues. All right, George, fire away.
Yeah, another question here. We'll go back to the white toner. So white toner, specifically an iColor 550, as a rule of thumb, how large can you make your design without lines or holes? Because not everybody likes that look.
Yeah, it's not by size, and it's really by feel. Okay, so what I tell folks when they buy these printers, all right, catering to the technology is how you're going to be successful with this, and understanding what it excels at. With toner-based heat transfer, you don't want to do a big square block of color. It's not going to have the softest hand. I mean, it can be done, but just understanding and setting the right expectations for the customer. What you want to do, and I'm sure we have some samples of that, is knock out and remove colors. It really caters to negative space. So with that being said, with it catering to negative space, it allows a very soft hand, and that allows the design the water to pass through. It allows a softer hand on the garment. And then rasterizing, I realize that initially you say, well, why would I want holes in my design? Most t-shirts are viewed at 3 feet away, and with the default settings of rasterization, you're not going to notice that. I can guarantee that's rasterized, you can't tell that. Now if you get up close and look, you can, but that's going to make that transfer a lot softer and make it last a lot longer. But then also removing darker colors. We have an example that we just did on the shirt here. Let me bring this up, I got it underneath. This is a plug for the art books too. This is 3 different images from the art books, and those art books are set up. But what we did is this had black in it. So let me bring this up here close so you can see. Okay, this had black in it. So wherever there's black in the middle, we knocked out that black. Now it had navy in there too. But allowing those colors, the background of the shirt to stand through, you can do that. So you can make very big designs. So for example, we'll take this out here and we'll show this. This is a 13 by 19 or a 12 and a half by 18. You know, I'm 6 foot and probably 220. You can see how big this is on me to give you perspective. So you can do a very big design, and you can see this on a shirt so that you can tell. And this is going to have a very soft hand, and the reason being is this has a lot of negative space. It's not a solid hand. So your artwork is key in setting the right expectation. If you want to do all over design and solid color, you're going to want to look at sublimation or something else, because then that goes in the fabric and there's no hand. So all over sublimation or all over shirt designs, that's done with sublimation. So it's all into the artwork, but you can do big designs. So, all right.
Cool.
Hope that answers.
And now everybody has your shirt size, Steve, so they can get your shirts for the holiday.
Yes. Extra large, thank you.
And pastel.
So Paul sent us a message. He's got a question. He has an Oki 8432 and wanted to know if there's an option to swap out the white for a black toner cartridge to get a true black with that print.
Yep, you absolutely can. So you need the black toner and drum for the 8432. You are able to swap that out for the white.
Yep, so keep in mind, when you do that, with this, there's no, you have CMYK printers, so you're not gonna be able to go on a dark color because you're losing your white. Your colors would look very muted. So for white and light colors, that's a good application, but keep in mind, you're losing your white when you swap that out. So the one true option we have there for a true 5-color station, we sell a lot of them, is the Oki 9541. It's just around the corner here, just slightly out of camera there. That is a true 5 station, so you never lose anything. It's always there. So for some customers, that's super important to always have that black within there and have a true black, and then also have your white. So if you need that solution, there is an answer for that. Okay.
Cool. Another good question that we had, this was another pre-submitted question, and this is on the Uninet 550. Can you give some general guidelines on the durability of shirts once with the 2-step process? Like, how long does that last?
Yeah, so the 2-step standard, it's all about the media type that you use. And with these printers, there's an abundance of media types. So if you have questions on that, just let us know. We know it can be overwhelming. But the most commonly used one is going to be the iColor 2-step standard paper. And that one's going to last you about 40 to 50 washes. So that's a really good question on the durability of those. And then the premium paper that we discussed earlier, that one's going to last you about 100 washes. And that one does come at a little bit more of a premium price to get that more extended wash life. It's a great question.
Cool. Another question we just got in was, is there a way to do transfers and prints that are larger than the paper size that your printer can print? I feel like I said the word print there a lot, but you got the question.
Print. So yes, you can print. So with the, there is a software available called the iColor, the Smart Cut software. It is now standard in every package that we sell with the iColor 550 and the iColor 800W. That allows you to take, like for the max media size on the iColor 550 is 8.5 by 14. You're able to take 2 8.5 by 14 sheets and it automatically splits up your artwork into contours. There's a great video you can watch on our website. I did a webinar with Joe Dovey from Uninet, and he actually goes through that process with the Smart Cut and what it's capable of and give some examples, but it cuts your image in the contours so that when it puts it over two 8.5 by 14, so you're able to do a tabloid size plus design. You're then marrying them back up on the transfer. So let me keep in mind, if you're part of any of the social media groups, you'll see that. That's not a solution if you're always doing that size design. If that's the case, it's going to get expensive because you're using two transfers. That is a solution where if the majority of your designs fit on those sheets standalone, but the occasion you need to do a larger size, you'll want to use that option. If you're doing bigger than 8.5 by 14, you should go with like the 8432, the 800W, the 9514, because you're only be using one transfer there and fit that appropriately. So it's going to save you money down the long run. On the 8.5 or the 800W, like this printer behind me here, over this way, you're able to do two 12.5 by 18 sheets. So you can do a huge print. Put it on canvas. I've seen that done before. So again, just depends on the application and what you're trying to achieve, but there are solutions for that.
Yep, and a lot of the differences between the printers that we offer is typically the maximum media size that it can print. So I know a lot of folks tend to have some questions as to why do the 550 versus the 600 or the 800. They all have a lot of different capabilities. So just let us know what questions you have on those. We'll be happy to walk you through to make sure you're in the right printer for your business.
Because it is confusing. If you're new to this, it's hard to figure out which one you need. So that's what we're here for. We want to assess your business and understand what you're trying to achieve now and in the future too.
Another question came in based off of something you mentioned earlier, Steve. You mentioned default rasterization values. So somebody want to know if you could kind of explain what that was. This customer is using Forever Rip.
Yeah. So there is different, you can change the dot size of the rasterization. So it means how big or small you make those. There is a default value for that. It really depends on your design. If you make them too big, you're going to lose more. If you make them too small, it's not going to make a difference. Your rule of thumb, if they're too small, is I think if you go to press it and you're having your white push into your holes, so you're seeing the adhesive come back through, you might want to make them a little bit bigger. Okay, that will for sure help that issue. So what I like about the CAD-Link grip, especially on the iColor Pro Rip, which is also the CAD-Link grip, it has default settings in there, and iColor bundles the rip with all the settings for the papers. So it'll be iColor 550 standard, iColor with rasterization with lines or holes. Those have the optimized settings within that so that you can choose that. So I don't remember if this customer had a 550 or not, or they're using it forever.
They did say. Yeah, so Forever Rip.
That might be another reason to look at a different rip. So just as a not trying to push something, but I just know from experience, sometimes if you're doing a lot of that and you're struggling, obviously we can help you with that, but there's other solutions there too. So
another question we had come in was, you've talked a lot about heat transfer onto shirts, and there's some other substrates, but somebody asked, can you do heat transfer to metal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You for sure can. You still use a hard surface paper. You just, again, want to test and see what settings work best. Follow the general guidelines on the directions of the paper. We can help you with that. But yeah, you can for sure do that. So, I mean, it's very versatile. Again, if the item can fit in a heat press, if it can take heat, you can most likely put a transfer on it. If you can't do that, there's a paper called Water Slide from Forever that is able to go on products that are not able to take heat. It releases in water and you put it on, you let it dry. So I've seen it done on like candles that are already full. I've seen where they have like their glass and you want to put a logo or something on it. Obviously, you're not going to put a candle that's already poured into a heat press. You're going to have a mess.
Please don't.
So yeah, you would use something like Water Slide for that. So.
Another question about the Pro Rip software. Somebody said, do I need Pro Rip software? And what exactly does the Pro Rip software do?
Yeah, so if you bought a heat transfer printer, well, two answers to that question. If you buy an iColor printer, your RIP software is included into that. I tell people that if you got a heat transfer printer and you didn't purchase a RIP software, don't have a RIP software, you're probably having problems and it's becoming a boat anchor for you. The RIP software is going to do several things. One, these printers print too much white out of the box. They print over 300% white because it's the nature of it is. So the RIP software controls your white, which is your most used and most expensive. And so you only need like 150% coverage of white in a design to do dark colored shirt. It also has color profiles and settings and tools and everything else built into it. you're going to get the best output of your design with the RIP software. It's going to pay for itself in just the white usage that you cut in half alone, because your white cartridges are at least 2 times more expensive than your standard color cartridge. So by cutting that usage down by 50%, you're going to save a lot of money and a lot of headache, and you're going to have tools within there to give you the best color reproduction.
Yep.
Anything you want to add to that?
Nope, that's
Okay.
good.
And again, that knocked me out on the Pro RIP.
Yep.
There's different things. So Pro RIP is what iColor calls their RIP software. We have the CAD-Link RIP for the Oki product. We have, so it's the same thing. It's a RIP software that's going to take your design, that final steps to give you the best output for the transfer. And it has all the papers built in. So most importantly, the papers are built into there, so you can just choose what paper you're using. It adjusts everything within the internal part of the RIP, so you're not going in each time and figuring out those settings. It's right there for you. That saves you a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
So another question, this one came in, and I'm going to try and paraphrase this a little bit. They have a question about how thin or thick the 2-step standard paper, transfer paper, is supposed to be. They've gotten some thick paper from one supplier, and they got thin paper from another that's jamming up their iColor 550. So are there different thicknesses and different types of transfer paper?
Yeah, there's a couple different types of paper. So you may have gotten the Forever transfer paper, the 8.5 by 11. That is not recommended to use in the iColor 550 because it is just a little bit thicker. You are recommended to use the iColor 550 paper, so the 2-step standard paper that's specified for the iColor 550 because it is a little bit thinner. Otherwise, you will run into those paper jams if you decided to purchase the Forever paper. So.
Yep. So yeah, stick with that, the appropriate paper for the printer. Make sure it's compatible with it. And all the paper we sell, they're compatible with our printers, so we can help you figure that out and make sure. So
this one's going to be kind of a judgment call on your part because I don't know how you measure
Oh,
this,
man.
but I get the question. So the question is, what is the stretchability of a shirt made with white toner HTV? So I'm assuming they're meaning heat transfer vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
So does that, I guess, what kind of give does that have?
yeah, so with that, there is a lot of different vinyls out there or stretchable. And here's the thing, not every time in every job are you going to want to use a toner-based heat transfer. If you're doing sports jerseys, sometimes a transfer vinyl or something like that is better for that because it has more stretchable properties. All these papers have a little bit of a give, and one of the popular media that we're bringing on is the iColor Select paper, which has more of a stretch to it. It's going to be one of those things you want to test. So again, unfortunately, if there was a one solution fits all, but a lot of this, what it does with heat transfers, allows you to control production, bring it in-house, have self-weeding, full color. But depending on what you're doing, there might be a case where you outsource and do a transfer like that, depending on what type of material or the application of it is. So, good, we can help you navigate those waters. But yes, there is stretchability to these. Some are better than others. And, some of the papers, if you pull and stretch it, it'll come back, but it doesn't come back 110%. The first thing I see at a show is folks will come up, will grab shirts and pull on them. And yes, that's practical in some way, and no, it's not practical in others, because when you put your t-shirt on, do you grab and stretch the crap out of it? No, you don't. So with that being said, I think there's some realistic expectations and some unrealistic expectations with that. So let us help you determine what makes sense for the application. So
I think it also depends on what size t-shirt, Steve, because when I'm trying to use a medium,
Yeah.
I have to give that a little bit of a stretch. You know what I'm talking about?
So yes, make sure the shirt fits over your head first off, and that's going to be the good indication.
So another question we had come in was somebody said they're getting their black is coming out a weird color. Is there any tips or tricks you have to make it a darker black?
You
Yes.
said that's what the 800.
Yeah. So one of the questions I always get in helping people determine what maybe makes sense with the 800 and 9541 is a processed black versus a true black. And most likely you're having trouble because you're using processed black, and that's okay. What I tell folks, most times that's good enough. I mean, sometimes we as people understand the printing process and see this, overthink the process of that. But if you are in a spot where you need true black, the 5-station makes the most sense. But if you're in that case where occasionally you print both, what you can do is you can change your CMYK values in the RIP software to 100, 180. If you go 100, 100, 100, it will make it too brown. If you go too far the other way, it'll make it more purplish or blue. But I find that I can get a good black at your CMYK values or your CMY value, excuse me, at 100, 180. That will typically give you a pretty good black. And most people are not going to pick up a shirt and say, oh, that's a processed black. So don't overthink that. I know it's a selling tool that's out there. Depending if the vendor only carries Oki or they only carry eye color, it's a sales pitch against one or the other. Really, it's a determining, understanding, and setting the right values for it, and understanding how much black you're printing and what printer makes sense for you. So there are tools, and again, I would make those color changes in the RIP. I think I get a better output. That's where RIP software comes in. You get a better color output using RIP software, and it has those tools by then adjusting it beforehand in your RIP software, or in your design software, sorry.
Yeah, we had just a few more questions come in, and this is another one that kind of relates to heat transfer, but they're wondering about heat presses. And is there a specific style that you recommend that works better with heat transfer as opposed to another?
Yeah, so like Steve mentioned earlier, I think at the beginning of the webinar, just making sure it's a high quality heat press. United States made heat press like our George Knight or our Stalls. If you have a China heat press, it's probably not going to give you consistent heat, consistent pressure like these would. I really am a big fan of the Fusion IQ. It has a ton of presets, especially with the heat transfer papers. Usually it's a two-step process. It's a different time for the first step than it is for the second. Super nice to be able to use that and have that preset available. Plus it has that drawl, so you can very easily thread the garment over it, or it has a swing away function, which is also really nice. I know a lot of folks tend to use a clamshell. That may be okay for you, but a lot of the times it's going to give you some inconsistent pressure and heat because it's going to come down back first. That's why I always like the swing away or the pull drawer. Makes it a lot nicer, a lot more consistent.
And if you start out heat transfer and you decide to get sublimation, you've already got the right kind of press.
Exactly.
Because with sublimation, you always want to swing away. So that's why in heat transfer, because so many times you'll have both these technologies within your business, you get one press and it does both.
Yep.
So a question that came in about the iColor 550, the sublimation feature of that, is there any risk of clogging the printer or prints with the sublimation part of the 550?
Another good question. So you don't have any risk with that. It's very easily to interchange the heat transfer toners and the sublimation toners by literally you're just popping them in and popping them out and replacing them. Super, super easy function.
Keep in mind the same rules apply with sublimatable toner as it does with sublimation. It's got to be white and light color and polys. You're not going to use sublimation paper in a toner-based transfer printer. You're just going to use a plain white copy paper, and a high quality white copy paper is what you'd want to use. You know, again, catering to technology, being that we sell both, there are some applications where sublimation is much better done on an aqueous-based system like the Sawgrass, Epson. And then there's other cases where I think toner-based heat transfer caters well to vector artwork. On the sublimation side, it caters really well to vector artwork on fabrics. So that's where I like it. Some hard surface. If you're doing on drinkware with sublimation on toner base, you're going to have an extra step because the toner base leaves a little bit of grittiness behind. So you'll want to, there's an extra cleaning that you'll want to do with that. So again, it's very inexpensive. It's super fast. But again, it's using it for the right thing and understanding where it excels at and where you might want to use standard sublimation. Any other questions?
Yeah, we'll get one more here. I think you opened up a can of worms, Steve, when you gave me the recommendations for the black on that. So do you have any suggestions for getting a good red that will be going on a black shirt? And they're using an 8432 and Forever Rip.
Yeah, red can be tricky, and sometimes it's you can adjust the density of the white will help sometimes. There's other things that you can do within the RIP software, and then also with the printer that will help. Red's a little bit tricky, but sometimes upping that amount of white might help too. In some cases, too much white washes out color. Red's tricky. So that would be something that for sure, you know, give us a call and we might be able to help you with the settings on that. But yes, red can be a little bit tricky, and there's things you can adjust within the RIP software to change that and get help with the white.
And another tip with the red is also dropping your temp down too.
Yes, thank you.
That's a huge thing. Bringing that temp down to like 265 if you can.
Yeah.
It definitely helps with the vibrancy of the room.
And honestly, you can do that really on any of them.
Yep.
If you want to keep some of that color vibrancy, is drop the temperature on your second press. So, you
No
know,
issues with that.
yeah. Because you can go down, because you worry about when you're doing polys, while we're on that, when you're doing polyester, you want to do it that 270 range, 265, because you worry about dye migration. And you can do this as high as 310 on other fabrics and so forth, but dropping that temp can really help. So.
I remember two other questions for some reason, silicone finishing sheets and overprinting and underprinting.
Yes.
So do you want us to talk a little bit about those?
I was just gonna ask him, so you might as well take it away, that's fine.
I'm like, I know we're running short on time, but I felt that, because I'm like, ooh, those were pre-submitted questions.
Yes.
We better get to those.
Yeah, but if you could answer both of those, that'd be great.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the underprinting and overprinting the white. So that's a function that the Uninet printers have that you're able to do in one pass by switching where the toner is located in the printer. You would use an underprint, say you're going on a clear window cling. That would be a feature that you would want to use the underprint function for. Otherwise, you're going to be using the overprint for the majority of the time for your garments and your heart substrates. If you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, for garment printing,
Yeah.
you're never going to use underprinting. It's always going to be overprinting. So, you know, most 9 times out of 10, but it is nice to be able to have on the eye color products where you don't have to run it twice. You can literally just switch the position. The only one that doesn't do that is the 800. Let me clarify that. But the eye
Thank
color
you.
600 and the 550 do underprint and overprint by changing the position of the white. It's just one of those features. You might not use it very often, but, you know, for example, while we're here, you know, this is an example. Let's come close in on this. See this right here? If you did this through an Oki, you run it twice. See the white and then the color, you would have to do that twice. You would run one and then run the other. So with on an eye color product, because you can change the position, it can print the white, print the color, and it's run through once. So just keep that in mind. It's not that it's not doable, it's just you have an extra step.
Yep, time saver.
And that was just a print of, just on this regular
Cardstock.
cardstock.
Yep, black cardstock.
Thank you, George.
Mhm.
And then the silicone
Finishing sheets.
finishing sheet, correct.
Yep, so that's something that you're gonna wanna use. I like to use it on top of the transfer, anytime you're pressing it, and then at the finishing step of the garment pressing process, you're going to use that silicone finishing sheet to seal everything in. So definitely recommend it. And somebody asked something about T-Seal from Magic Touch.
Oh, yes, yes.
That was a question too.
So
I'll let you
yeah,
go on that.
T-Seal is specifically designed for the Magic Touch paper on their one-step paper. I think it's even on their the other paper that they offer, but the T-Seal is their finishing sheet. It just seals that transfer. Every paper mill has a different process, or, you know, I've seen lots of different papers that have different things, but the silicone sheets is going to catch it all. Eye Color also has the parchment paper, which leaves them a little more of a glossier finish, but you need to give it a second or two to cool, because if, like, unlike the silicone, if you just take it right off, it's going to stick to that parchment paper. It's going to come off of your shirt. So, you know, make sure you understand that depending on what you're doing. But we get, you know, in part of our packages, we include those silicone finishing sheets with for you, because you just need them. It's part of the process. You can use them over and over again unless you get like a big crease in it, because then that can show up on your transfer depending on the design you're doing. So comes by packs of 10, right?
Yep.
Packs of 10.
Yep.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Folks. Yeah, I think that wraps
Again,
up our questions.
Yep.
let's talk about this, what we're going to give away. Do we want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Well,
what
we
we're
did
going to
them in
give
the
away.
beginning.
We
We have
did.
to.
We
forgot about
gotta give it away now.
We talked about art books. This is volume 2. I just grabbed one, but 2 things on this, why we're talking about this giveaway. I just kind of want to show you this. So on this shirt we have, Carly, you want to hold that up? I held it up earlier. So this is kind of nice where, again, this has multiple images. We took 3 images from this page to come up with this design. This might be something you might look at this and say, okay, what can I use that for? Fantasy football. So, you know, there's all kinds of things. It gives you a base to work with. That was all taken from this art book. They're designed for white toner heat transfer, so you don't have to be a graphics expert to get started, and then learn as you go, and we can help you do that. So, so speaking of that and giveaways, we are going to give away the to someone here bring it up here if I can get back to it. I think I accidentally closed it. The art book that shows you, let me show my screen here, how to set up your toner-based heat transfer with your printer. I think I clicked out of it, but we'll go back. Nope, okay. But it is the book on how to set up your artwork for toner-based heat transfer.
So it's not the separate volume
Yep.
ones,
Let
it's
me, I think I
the
have it
original
up here.
one.
Let's bring it up. I had iColor's website up, so I keep clicking things. I have the new rule. Steve is not allowed to drive the webinar. In this case, why can't I minimize? I'm on here. Let me just move this over. Hold a moment. I'll get it. Here we go. Goodness gracious.
Whew,
Okay,
stressing me out.
it is this book right here. So this is a book that walks you through. With this, you're going to get 50 images included. This is going to be able to be brought into your, if I can talk to your Corel and your Photoshop or other programs, edit those, bring them into the RIP software. So we will give you one lucky winner today. We'll have this book to help them understand how to set up artwork for white toner heat transfer.
And we have selected our winner, Steve,
Oh,
just randomly.
Okay, go for
Since
it.
I do not have paper to hand you the
Yes.
name, I'm just going to read it.
Okay, go for it.
Paul Lamb. Paul, thank you for attending and watching and asking questions, and appreciate that. And we're going to get in touch with you offline here, and we'll get you your iColor book.
Awesome. Thank you again, everybody. If we didn't get to your question,
Yeah.
I apologize, but feel free to contact us. I've got one thing I want to touch on. I almost forgot. Let's bring back up this lovely presentation. Couple things here. We have JP Bucks. One of the things we want to talk about is every piece of equipment you buy from us, like the iColor printers, you're going to get a JP Bucks back to spend after you receive your printer, to spend it on the website for consumables. Hey, you've got the printer, you're going to need paper. We sell other things that can be crossover products for different technology. It's just a way to make that say thank you and have your dollar that you're spending stretch a little bit further. So don't forget, on our website we have that list of what you're going to win, or what you're going to earn with your JP Bucks on that equipment purchase. Also here is our contact information. So feel free to reach out to Carly and I, and we can help you answer any questions that you might have. So again, everyone, thanks for taking time out of your day.
Thanks so much, everybody.
And have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.